Sup, shitters, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SB Interviews, where today I am going to be chatting to, in the very first of these, I'm going to be doing an interview with an artist, a musician, a songwriter named Wessjester. Without further ado, we're going to switch over to here where we have Wessjester on the screen. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Now, obviously, we've been working together for a little while, haven't we?
Yeah, sometime since last year.
Because, like, how many of these reviews would I have done for you now? I've done like 20, 24, 25.
Yeah, and there was some before the various tracks also. There were some single tracks too.
Which is pretty crazy when you think about it, right? Like, that's a lot of material. I've reviewed, like, stuff from people who sort of get aggregates together of, like, different artists, but I would say I've probably reviewed probably close to about like 100 100 of your songs. And you said, I remember us having chats, you said you got a whole lot more than that. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, there's at least over 5,000. I've also lost a good 1,000 through time.
That's rough, man.
Yeah, I've lost some really good ones that I'll never get back.
Do you have like a favorite track? Actually, before we go into your favorites, we should probably allow you to introduce yourself. So,
my name is Espo Espinosa. I go by the username Wessjester and other various usernames online. And I've been making music for about 20 years or so, recording it and writing lyrics and, just composing all the instrumentals and everything and putting it online.
20 years. 20 or so years. That's a hell of a time to be working in an industry, eh? Like, what's kept you passionate about it?
I enjoy listening to my own music after I record it.
So basically, is that kind of more of is it that you're proud of what you've managed to accomplish? Or is it like, is that it? Or is it something else?
I'm learning. As I listen to the music I record, I learn from it. I'm always learning something new. It's kind of like a lot of stuff I do is trial and error method. I don't really know too much musical knowledge or, when I put it into the music program, there's so many things in the music program I don't know how to do. Like, I'm limited to that. I'm limited to what I know. And I don't really... I can read chords, of course, and a little bit of tablature, but for the most part, I'm kind of like self-taught and learning as I go.
Because, I am always amazed at the amount of musicians you hear about who write really fantastic music, yet they don't have a really massive understanding of music theory. For a lot of people, they get the right chord progression and they just go for it. It's pretty incredible. Like, is there like something... What's the biggest sort of lesson you've learned throughout your time as a musician, like from when you started?
To always experiment, because if I wouldn't have tried to think outside the box, I just would have been, doing the same thing over and over again. It would have just been hit record and play a few chords, and yeah, it wouldn't have been that enjoyable.
Because you are quite an experimental artist. Like, we've had some pretty fun times. We've had some pretty fun times with your material, haven't we?
Yeah.
One of my favorites was actually when you sort of made it was a longer track, and you talked about your life. It was like a 20-minute something track, wasn't it? That was incredible. Like, what made you want to sort of put that out?
Well, one of my goals is to put as much stuff out as I can. And I figured one day some people might stumble upon this, and maybe if I get lucky, it'll blow up. And I figured people want to know who I am. And the more they know, the more maybe they'll either enjoy the music or something like that. Because, like, if I have a favorite artist and I watch, like, a small documentary on them, even if it's like a 10-minute documentary on them, I feel more connected to the music somehow.
Yeah, that was actually a smart move on your part, because it literally, especially if you were to like to promote that as like one of the first things people saw like on your social media, people will be like, right, I might not sort of necessarily understand like how he comes up with this, because some of your stuff is extremely experimental. It's good. It's just very different to a lot of the stuff I review on a typical basis. But like, if people can come to your channel and they can see that story, they're like, oh, that's where he gets his inspiration from.
I think that sometimes even my own experimental music surprises me.
Oh, okay.
You know. Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest revelation about yourself you've found through experimenting?
Well, when I was younger, I feel like I didn't have much of a personality, which is really weird to say, but like this was all before I made the music. And as I made the music, I feel like I not only created some sort of persona, but also like learned more about me that I didn't even know I could learn.
Ah, that's actually funny, isn't it? Because like you can sit there on a rock and you can think of yourself about yourself for an entire day, and sometimes it's only when you actually try to create something you're like, oh, that's why I do that, you know?
Yeah. I also am a better communicator due to all this trying to freestyle my lyrics, and as you can tell, sometimes I'm just winging the music too. Like I don't even know how it happens sometimes. It's always a mystery to me. Sometimes the stuff I play I've never played before. I never even knew a certain scale or nothing. It just kind of all came together.
Which is incredible. It's incredible that you can freestyle like that. You know, it's not an easy thing to do. And I'm assuming that's something that's come from your work over the last, 20 something years.
I think in the beginning, I was inspired by hearing people freestyle rap. You know, I grew up in California for a few years, and the whole idea of people freestyle rapping, I was like, well, I want to give this a try, and I was pretty good at it, and I wanted to do something else with it, like more like a rock music thing, so I started singing freestyle, and I would, at least 90% of my songs are just off the top of my head. Some stuff, 10% is probably written down beforehand.
That's crazy. Like, because you've got some tracks that are like 7 or 8 minutes long, right? How do you do that? How do you?
Well, I just I make the music first sometimes, and most of the time I should say I make the music first, and then I just come up with a theme in my head, and I hit record, and I usually do it all in one take. I don't like to take multiple takes. I just like one take to start from the beginning and just do it all, rant off the top of my head.
Yeah, because that's the danger, right? If you do, especially if you're freestyling, if you do another take, it's very unlikely that you'll get that exact same. If you want,
when you're doing just one take, it sounds more natural, and you hear it flowing through the whole song. It feels. And I have a feeling, I'm not sure, that professional musicians take multiple takes and cut everything into parts. And for me, it wouldn't be enjoyable doing that. And the song wouldn't be like really a song to me. It would be more like, I don't know how to explain it. It just wouldn't be right to me.
well, yeah, I mean, like when I've done a studio engineering for clients, I've actually found that it's often the musicians that are perfectionists. They will want to do it over and over and over. And you're absolutely right. It's about saying to them, look, if you just keep doing this, you'll get frustrated and get worse and worse.
And then sometimes when I'm just like doing the whole song from beginning to end, like random things will happen. Like I will think of some phrase to say, and it will blow my mind, and I'm like in awe of thinking of what I just said while still going, which is like enhancing it, because I'm like, wow, I just said that, but I don't have time to stop. I'm just still going. So I'm feeling greater and greater and greater in every line. Sometimes I swear, like at least once a month, sometimes a song will be so good, it will just flow together that it makes you wonder, like how did I do this? Like what, I have some sort of like, I don't know how to say it, like a spiritual kind of, okay, this is the best way to say it. Sometimes I feel like in this world, when you're freestyling the way I do it, it's almost like, it feels like somebody else is like helping me or something like that. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh.
Like, like I believe in spirituality, and I believe that when you're in that freestyle mode so much, that sometimes it feels almost like you're channeling some other thing or something. Like I feel like I'm getting help from the other side. I know it's a weird thing to say, but that's how I feel about it sometimes.
Oh, no, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. That spirituality is like probably a big part of how and what your music is, you know? That's cool. No, I'm not going to judge. Everyone has different ways of making their music, you know? It's totally fine. Have you got like a current project that you're working on, like that you're applying that same mentality to, or?
I always think of ideas and I use my phone to write down the ideas, whether it be the name of an album title or just the title of a song. Sometimes just writing down a title of a song is good enough to come up with an entire song. Sometimes I'll sit there and write some lyrics that rhyme. And I'm not sure why, but when you rhyme lyrics, sometimes you can come up with thoughts that are more, I don't know how to explain it, like the whole song kind of just vibes together.
Ah,
And then when I come up with these projects, I come up with so many that I can't use them all. So I have like ideas and ideas and ideas, and a lot of them go unused.
that's crazy because you've said that you've made like 5,000-ish songs and you're still got tracks that are not done.
Yeah, and I used to have notebooks with songs that I written during very emotional times in my life. But I just, even though I had hundreds of these notebooks in my lifetime, I've had to throw them away through time. So I just, tons of material that could have came out is gone. But I'm happy that I don't, would you say it? Like the well's never going to get dry.
That's good. That's good because it sounds to me like a lot of what you do comes from your own sort of humanity, your own experiences, and you're always going to have experiences, right?
Well, yeah. Like, for example, you heard that song, Hammy Balls the First Through the Fourth, right?
That was a trippy one. That was an interesting one.
See, what happened there was I go on this website called Chat Random. So I randomly chat with people. And this woman that was on there was talking about, for some reason, that she had these pet hamsters, and she was being really goofy and talking about hammy balls. And, like, because of that conversation right there, that just sparked the whole song.
Ah, so that's the inspiration for it.
Yeah. And that happens, like, when I go on Chat Random, I have these random video chats with people, and sometimes the conversations will give me a very, very strong, good idea and help me think of something I wouldn't normally think about.
Man, I wouldn't have imagined that. Like, Pete, that's so unique. I've never heard that. I've never heard of someone going through a platform like that and then using those conversations. You could just get a roulette of different stuff to write about every day.
Yeah, you could. And if you enjoy the conversation with that person, you even have more depth to put into the song.
Because I guess that's what the beauty of writing good music is. It's about having those really strong characters in your life who have strong personalities, and they'll then have strong actions which lead to you them affecting your life, you know?
Oh, and here's the best part. Sometimes on that random chat site, first thing I ask them is if they have any hobbies, and then usually they ask me if I have any hobbies. I say I play guitar and sing and put it on YouTube. Then they want to check out my YouTube live while they're chatting with me. And then sometimes they subscribe, sometimes they don't. But the ones that subscribe, usually I'm like, okay, I have to make a song about our chat and see if they hear it. And that's happened a couple times.
Oh, that is a flaw. That is so clever. That's a complete closed circuit. It's flawless.
Yeah, and then also, like, sometimes they'll ask me to play music for them live, so I'll pull up my keyboard or guitar, and while we're still video chatting randomly, they'll sit there sometimes for hours just listening to me play music, so it gives me experience of, like, playing live.
Yeah, because I was going to ask at some point today, what is the scene like for where you are at the moment? Like,
because of the virus, there's no open mics, but I know a place here where I can play. I haven't really ever done live stuff, but I could. I would probably wing some of it, but I could do it pretty good. But because of the virus, that definitely is not a possibility. And I want to do live music someday, but my main focus actually of my music is I want people to cover my songs, and I want someday maybe to have like a one-hit wonder. That would be just good enough for me.
That's completely fair. I mean, like you look at what's your favorite one hit wonder?
Um, my music is always changing my taste, but like one that I think of right off the top of my head, um, is that song Cult of Personality.
Oh, Cult of Personality. That is an interesting one, isn't it?
The reason that one sticks out is because I heard the song when I was growing up and it didn't really hit me hard. But when I was watching wrestling and all of a sudden it was CM Punk's theme music and just everything he did about wrestling and then how he left and didn't come back, like you didn't get to hear him come out the Cult of Personality anymore, and it just like, you miss it. You miss it so much. So when I hear that song, I think of that, professional wrestler. And
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. I just love that this is the Cult of Personality with that really sick guitar solo, right?
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's a phenomenal guitar solo. That guy's underrated, right? That guy was ridiculous.
And the interesting part about it is my dad, when I was growing up, he used to collect these guitar for the practicing musician magazines, and I used to read them because he'd get them all the time. He had almost every issue, and I used to see pictures of In Living Color on the covers and inside the magazines, and I didn't really know exactly who they were until in the future. And that's another thing I really wanted to touch on in this interview is that my dad was making music. I haven't heard much of it, but I remember him always making music when I was growing up, and he had gotten some of his music copyrighted.
Oh.
And yeah, he got at least like 4 or 5 albums copyrighted, and he still makes music all the time. And his music is kind of what's the word for it? Like unique also. And he's really good at playing guitar, and he's always had that recording equipment growing up. And like I didn't make too much music until I was like in high school, but that also inspired me to make music is because of him.
That's fantastic. Wow. That's a really interesting. So you've had that really sort of strong influence there.
Very strong influence. Well, actually, there's one other influence too. Is that I'm a big believer in God, as you know, and I don't try to push my beliefs on others, but I do have to mention God sometimes. And I have to say that because God is a creator, I like look up to God in that way where I want to be a creator too.
Oh, I understand. So basically, you've got your father, and then you've also got you've also got that. I understand now. I think I'm starting to get a better hang of your music now, because I've noticed those religious sort of spiritual sort of influences, and it's actually good to be able to sort of talk to you about it now. This is the beauty of interviews.
And this is what I wanted to, is because of the interview, I wanted to put it on my YouTube page and other places so that if people, like, let's say they listen to a whole bunch of my music first, and then one day they stumble upon this interview and they see it, they'll be like, wow, like, this guy's actually pretty interesting. Like, they'll find this interview maybe more interesting than the music,
Well, I mean, like, this isn't specifically me as an interviewer. This is just in general. I think personally it's really important for people to have something like that in their promo kit.
Yeah, and you're the perfect person to do this interview right now because you have listened to a lot of my music.
Thank you. I have indeed listened to quite a considerable. I've listened to more of your music than any other artist ever.
And I enjoy all the things you say. I sometimes just sit here and laugh and just like enjoy these interviews so much. And like when I play them, my first time seeing them, I just like, I get a kick of how you react to certain things. Because, I'm doing experimental stuff. And sometimes you're just taken away. You're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, sometimes I have to admit I need to take a moment to kind of process it. Again, it's never terrible. I get the vast majority of it. Sometimes when like there's a bit of a key difference between notes, it takes me back a little bit because I'm like, this is just not something I'm used to. Because like, what is your opinion on pop music at the moment? Like popular music in 2021?
Real quick, I better say this. What is it? I beat to a different drummer, or what does that say? What is that saying?
I beat to a different drum.
Yeah, that's what I do. And before I talk about the pop music, I was gonna say that I don't understand all that stuff, like what is in a key, or I don't understand like all this stuff you're talking about sometimes. So I'm just like sitting here laughing about it. And I know that sometimes my drums are a little unorthodox. Like I have multiple layers of drums, and to me it sounds good. But like to somebody like you who knows a lot about music, you're probably like, this is insane.
It's just literally like we did studio engineering and I've studied audio production and all that. And what we got taught is to try and like not do things like that, you know, not to layer two drum kits. But that said, I have a lot of respect for what you do because you're trying to push the boundaries. And after I do these reviews, I sit and think, hey, that was a really unique experience.
And the thing is, I didn't even know like my music was that crazy until you started doing these reviews. Once you started doing these reviews, I go, I didn't even know this about my music. Like I'm learning stuff I didn't even know I did.
And
Now,
that's
no, what were you gonna say?
oh no, I was just gonna say, and that's the beauty of doing these reviews, but sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. So now about pop music, I have to say, like from 2005 to 2015, pop music was looking pretty disappointing, to be honest, and it was looking really sad. I like some hip hop, but like, and I'm okay sometimes with like love rock songs, but like it was just, I don't know, there was a horrible time there where pop music was like, there was no hope at all. But now recently, in the past 2 years or so, like pop music is more edgy and more, like, I think it's because of stuff like YouTube, but because of YouTube, like small people who are just starting out and somehow get a break, like are coming up with some really good music. And also the culture right now of pop music is like, how do I say it? It's like, well, this is like in rap, it's getting better, but in rock, still I think people are too obsessed with these love songs that are really, some of them are just not that good to me. Like I like more stuff like Radiohead and Mars Volta, and just like some, even bands have been letting me down, like Tool. Like Tool's okay, but I know they have way more potential and stuff. Like, so sometimes I take a lot of inspiration from other musicians, but sometimes when I sit down and listen to an album of a musician that I really love, or one I was looking forward to listening to, I just like, I get disappointed and I'm like, I don't understand why this isn't hitting me, but other people enjoy it. So it must just be me, you know, like I must have like some sort of, I don't know, just everybody has their own taste of music. And I've known people in my life who sometimes could find one of my songs that's enjoyable, but the rest are just like, it's so hard for them to listen to and they don't enjoy it. And I'm okay with that. Like I have to be okay with some people not liking my music or understanding it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I ever made is for so many years I had a microphone that was not professional at all. As you can hear I still like to share with you some of my old recordings, and some of those old recordings, like it's hard to hear what I'm saying or singing, or just like there's the EQ's not right or stuff like that. And most of my songs back then I never mastered or anything. It's just very raw stuff.
But that's okay, though. It's okay for you to not know everything when you're starting out. In my personal opinion, it's way better to be making stuff than just to wait until you know everything, because half of the experience is trying stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like with what you were talking about, sort of the disappointment side of things with some pop artists and sort of, you know, with Tool especially, like I think with Tool, and this is an opinion, and I know some people watching this might have, that Tool are just not the same band they were when they were doing their earlier stuff. It's been how many years between Tool's latest album and the one before it?
Yeah, it's been a lot.
To assume that they'd be the same people that they were, I don't know. That just doesn't. But then at the same time, it's okay to be unhappy with what Tool's done because of the fact that they set the bar, right?
Oh yeah, they set the bar really high, like with like one of my favorites. I think it was called Lateralis, or it had Lateralis on the album.
Because like if you think about it, don't things get better with time? So logically, if it's been that long, wouldn't they have been working to make it the best possible thing and just blow our minds? And then when they don't do it, I fully understand it. It's disappointing.
It's very disappointing. And I know that if I ever somehow break into the music business, I know that also people will judge my music. But I'm, as you can tell, I don't really care what people think of my music. I just know that I make it for me, mostly because, like, I know that I listen to it more than anybody else does.
Because you said that you enjoy listening to your own music. And that's honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard a musician say, because it's heartbreaking when you hear people trying to go professional and they're trying to make what they think people want to hear. Because often it's the bands that broke the boundaries and they did their own thing that are the ones that are successful. And then some of these bands, do you know Trivium?
I've heard of them a little bit, rock band.
They had a few really good albums like mid-2000s to late 2010 with Shogun, and then suddenly they started going in a bit more of a sort of polished sort of... They tried to sort of sanitize themselves a little bit. The vocalist didn't want to do the growling, screamy stuff anymore, and it kind of alienated a lot of fans. And then the vocalist, as I understand it or remember it, he made a song about basically saying, if the haters or something like that along those lines. and then 4 years later, Trivium or something like that making your album and he's back doing his growly stuff.
Here's something that resonates really strongly with a lot of my friends. When we heard that first Linkin Park album, we were just like, our minds were blown. We never heard anything like it before. It had just the right amount of rapping and rock into it. And the guitars were just amazing and it blew our minds. And when that came out, the internet was like starting to share music a lot. And this was around Napster time, maybe a little after it. And I found their like unreleased material that they made. And it really inspired me because I heard music that Linkin Park did before they got famous. And it was really good. And I was just so excited. And as the new albums came out, they slowly weren't as powerful, but they were still okay. They were still one of my favorite bands. And then like when that last album came out, that was the very last studio album that Linkin Park released. I was like, that's it. It's just not anymore. There's no more power. It's just over. It was like they went from their own original thing to pop music, and it just didn't resonate with me or my friends. My friends would complain about it all the time. But I will say, there was an album, I can't remember what it's called. It was either their second to their last or third to their last. And I remember I hated it so much when it first came out. And then later I fell in love with it. It was one of my favorite albums after that.
It is a shame what happened to Linkin Park, because I remember Chester saying in one of his later interviews, rest in peace, that he really just was he didn't like the negative feedback. He was struggling with it. I don't think from that, I don't know a lot about it, but my understanding is he just wasn't really coping that well with what was happening with that change, because they needed to change, right? At least according to him, because they were one of the bigger bands in their group. And then after like the mid 2000s kind of emo alt rock movement, then like electronic music came in and the focus shifted and these bands needed to scramble,
But that first album, like, I don't know what it is about it, but like that first studio album, when you hear it, like, it could take you back to that time when you first heard it, and it's just so powerful. I want to someday make strong music like that. I know I have the potential to make good music like that. I just know that somehow something's holding me back from reaching that level right now.
What is one thing you could do to maybe get there? Like, what is your next sort of thing to sort of improve, like, your setup or your...
I need to find a professional studio nearby, and I need to go into a real studio and have them do all the recording work and mixing and mastering and all that stuff, and me just to go in there take some of my best songs and re-record them all and just like maybe do them a little differently. And like when I get your opinions of when you listen to my music, I value that input because it helps me sometimes to see that I might be doing something that probably since you know a lot about music and you also know about how it affects people when they're listening to it, I take your knowledge and I apply it. As you can tell in my newer music with my new microphone that I've applied some of the knowledge that you've given me through time. So it's been not only worth the money, that's been one of the most important things in all of my music making time is finding your service, finding somebody who has the time to listen to my music.
Hey, thank you so much. That means a lot. It's genuinely been a pleasure. The only time it's been anywhere near slightly difficult is just when I was really busy in the early stages of starting these reviews because I just had too much work to do and I was struggling to define a workflow. I've always enjoyed listening to your tunes, and I also appreciate the fact that you can be honest. That I can be honest and that you're willing to listen to it.
Well, I know that some of those times when you were like really frustrated was some really funny. Like, I'm sorry I was laughing at your bents, but I was just getting a real kick out of it because I knew that you had almost reached your boiling point, and I figured this was the perfect time to throw my life story audio clip in there. And it was perfect. It was perfect time, and it couldn't have been any more time because it was like the pot was boiling over, and I just threw my life story thing in there, and you were just like, everything had changed. It was like you felt differently.
Yep. No, it's all right. I clicked. I clicked pretty quickly, and I was like, well played. well played. No, you did well. Look, the thing is, it was a beautiful story that you told. And I know that I don't think there's ever a time where you're going to be artistically bankrupt. I think like this is just a thing you're probably been doing for the rest of your life, eh?
Yeah, till the death.
And, like as a guitarist and a vocalist, it's what, you don't have to worry about the drums, for instance, where like, as you get older, your arms and legs basically drop off. So I
just know that the service you provide is like, it's far and above the price. You know what I mean? Like,
you.
What I'm paying for, you're giving me way more than what I'm paying for.
I hear that, and I'm very kind of like blown away by that because when I listen to music, it's like a pleasure. It makes me really happy to know that I'm providing that service for you guys. To listen to your music, and it's taught me a lot about music too. It's taught me a lot about, because some of you guys, including yourself, have really interesting sort of perspectives on music and the creative process. And do you ever see yourself like making a big album at any point? Is that even a thing that people do these days?
It would definitely have to be in a studio.
Yeah. So that's something that you...
Yeah, because I have to go into a studio because everything I'm doing is almost like working myself up to that point.
Yeah.
Even when I release an album on Spotify or iTunes or something, that's still just like really raw stuff. In a studio, they're going to have the right mics, the right levels. They're going to have people there who know what they're doing. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive, but it's going to be so good. It's going to come out great that I'm really looking forward to it. Like that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to in my life right now, actually.
Because with your setup, you could probably get it all done in a day. You don't have to deal with a whole lot of different egos. Like like, would you be using your sort of drum machine and keyboard setup as well, or?
Well, I do use a lot of loops, but I try to manipulate the loops so they sound more original. And I do have an electronic drum set here, but I'm not a good drummer yet. I mean, I will work on it. And I play keyboard and guitar, and I do a lot of experimenting with instrumentals to try to learn new things. But for the most part, there's a lot of things in my music making program, Sony Acid Pro, that I don't even know what to do. Like, there's so many options and things I could click. I don't even know what they do. I wish I knew what some of the stuff did. Like I don't even change. You know how like there's that thing there that says 4/4?
4/4 time signature.
Yeah, I never changed that. Like that thing's always just factory whatever it says. I never changed that thing.
Because that's the thing, that changing a time signature, going from like a 4 beat per bar to a 3/4, which is a 3 beat per bar, completely changes this. It changes everything.
Yeah, and I don't even mess with that setting. I sometimes will change the beats per minute, but usually I'm always at 120, right where the factory setting just defaults.
Like, to think that you've made like 5,000-ish tracks at a 4/4 and 120 BPM blows my mind, dude. It's hard enough to get musicians to record an album nowadays at 4/4.
I think it's at 4/4. It's whatever a factory defaults at, and I just I don't even see. I don't understand the concept of some of this stuff. Like I don't understand what changing the time signature is gonna do because I'm just making music. Like I don't even know what that means. Like I don't know what this time signature stuff means. I don't understand what out of key means. I just hear what I hear, and if I like it, I'm just like all right with it.
It's tricky because like I would recommend for you to like just find any resources you can to learn more about that stuff. But then at the same time, it might ruin the magic of what you do.
It might too, because like when you talk about certain things in these reviews, I'm like completely lost. You're like on like a college level.
Oh, thank you.
And it like, it's fun. It's like, I really laugh at some of it because I don't know. I really get a kick out of some of the stuff you say. So I think you're really good at what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it genuinely means a lot. I'm going to have to think about how I communicate in these reviews because I know for sure that you're not the only one who maybe doesn't understand all of the college level sort of musical stuff. But I think you have understood the vast majority of the recommendations I provided. And you have really improved, and I'm so glad that you went and upgraded the mic. I'm so glad.
Oh, yeah. That mic, I still record some songs with my phone, but no, with that microphone, I can hear the difference. And I've had like, gosh, 10 or 15 different microphones, and I've never heard that much of a difference until I got this one. When I got this microphone here, this Tascam DR-07 MK2, that's also portable. Like when I got it, I was blown away. Like I never heard anything like it. My voice sounded almost crystal clear.
Oh man, I got a chill down my spine hearing that. I'm so happy for you, dude. Like, cause I don't know if there's so many different mics. There's so many different kinds. Like the one I use is an NT1A Rode, and it's a condenser mic, and so it's kind of like entry-level professional. But for you, what you've got's fantastic. You know what I mean? Like I need a mic like this because it suits my vocal timbre, timbre. I don't know how to pronounce that word, yet I'm sort of reviewing music.
It might be timbre, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but like for you, that mic that you've got, that Tascam has made a world of difference, and it's so cool to be able to hear your lyrics nice and clearly, dude. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah. I still have to manipulate the EQ though because it somehow has some air noise. And there's ways to get rid of that, like in the pre-recording. I don't know how yet to use on my thing pre-recorded effects yet. I had a friend who showed me one time. He was surprised that I didn't know these VSTs or VTSs or whatever, and how to use them like in pre-recorded effects. And I just record my music and alter some of the EQ or chorus or reverb. As you can tell, I use a lot chorus, reverb, barely use delay, but like I mess with the EQ sometimes. I like to take away the highs and the lows a little bit because my voice is a little deeper. Because
like typically with like vocals, if you do a cut anywhere below 60, Usually that helps you sort of top like any of the bass instruments and drums and stuff. So if you're doing that, that's like halfway to awesomeness, you know what I mean? Like, but even then, while while you don't have a sort of a really massive understanding of VSTs and stuff like that, again, it's pretty good. I'm glad you've got reverb and stuff like that sorted. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah, and I know that you said in the past that I overdo some of the flanger, but I like that. I like that whole. You can tell I really like the flanger a lot. Like I have so much fun with I think it's phaser, flanger, and just like some massive choruses too.
Yeah, you love that stuff. You love it to pieces, and sometimes it surprised me, but I think I've actually started to get used to it. I've started to get used to your use of it, and I kind of love it. It's kind of like, it's sort of therapeutic. The reason I actually asked about your opinion on pop music, like earlier in the interview, was because I was going to sort of talk about how your music sort of contrasts to a lot of the artists I review. And I love that your music is so unsanitized. It's so organic.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by unsanitized?
So, like, you're not afraid to take risks. And also the fact that it's not like, sometimes it'll just sound, do you know what I mean by too clean? If a track sounds too clean, it's like...
Then if a track sounds too clean to me, it's almost like that when you hear a new song on the radio and it doesn't resonate with you, or I mean, you don't vibe with that song. So you kind of overlook it and you just don't enjoy that song. But like some of my stuff, it's so raw and gritty and it's so complex and it feels like it has what's the word for it? Texture.
Yes. Yes, texture, yes.
And that's what happens when I don't master my song sometimes. It has an extra thick texture to it. But sometimes I've found out recently, because I've done a little bit of mastering, is that when I do like a compression, like it adds a texture to it, but it also takes away some of that organic texture that I normally have in my songs.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing with mastering, because you want to keep the you don't want to take away too much of the edge in the mix, but you also need to sort of refine it in a way that sort of, because mastering is effectively making something commercially viable, you know?
And I think there's a lot of possibilities for me, even after my lifetime, is that people can come, look at all my old songs, and I've only got like maybe 2,000 of my songs on the internet. You know what I mean? Like I don't have time to upload all these other 3,000 or more songs, but I'm hoping that one day some people will come along, take one of my tracks, remaster it professionally. It'll sound even better. I know that it's better if they have the tracks separately, but even if it's just all one thing, at least they can master it and make it sound better and more pleasing to the ear. And another thing is, I would really enjoy people to do covers of my music.
Yes, that's true. You mentioned that before. That's right.
That's really important to me because I want people to like take my song to the next level.
Do you think that's something you do as a promotional thing in future, offer people the opportunity to remix or cover your music?
If I ever got well known, I would probably do some sort of once a month, like a competition of remixing my songs. Like I would pick a song and I'd say whoever could come up with the best remix, and then have like some way to have a limit of the first like 500 people to upload a cover of it, like in a certain way. It wouldn't have to be YouTube would be too hard to monitor it, but like if it was on a website of my own linked from YouTube or something like that, and I would take, you know, like maybe 500 submissions and just give like a prize, like $1,000 or something, you know what I mean? And just like see who can, that not only will I have a winner, but I'll also have all these other people that will really open my mind musically to more about my music, and it'll be a learning experience.
And that would be fantastic. That'd be really good, man. I'd be super happy for you if that was able to be done, you know?
Another thing I want to do too is, if I was well known, I would want to do a lot of live streams where I just make up stuff and I just play music off the top of my head. That way I have an audience, but also I can read what they're typing while I'm just making up stuff. I
get you. I feel you, man. I think that's some really good goals to strive towards. Hopefully you can find that success.
Yeah, and one last thing that I really want to put out there is that it's really important that my music, like if it ever was well known after my life, I'd want most of the money from it to go towards like the World Wildlife Federation, because I strongly feel that that is one of the most important organizations in my opinion, where I'd want my money to go towards.
Yep. I understand. That's fantastic. That's a beautiful thing to do. See, you're such a good-natured person. This is awesome.
Thank you so much.
No, honestly, like, it's been a pleasure talking today, Wessjester. We're about out of time, but is there any places you'd like people to go to check out their music? Is there a message for people watching this interview that you'd like to sort of tell them?
I want people to be inspired by my music, to also like be able to think differently and not just always go based on the popular opinion. And I also want people to give everybody a chance, whether they're a musician or just a person that doesn't have creative talents. I want everybody to like get a chance to put their input in, to make a difference. Even if it's not that much of a difference, I want everybody to have a chance to say even something that everybody can look at and be inspired by. And I want to inspire others to make music or try to make music. If they've never done it before, to go out there and just try to make music. Try it, at least.
That's fantastic. No, that's beautiful. That's I'm so glad to hear that. I'm really hoping that when people listen to what you have to say, especially considering the amount of work that you put in over the years.
Yeah. I mean, some of those songs I spent hours and hours making, and then some of those songs I came up with like in half an hour. But it's been a lot of time. It's been a lot of hours.
It's been worth it though, right?
Oh, more than worth it. I'm surprised that I even had this chance. Like, I'm surprised that other people don't do this, because like, there's so much value of making music.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking today, Wessjester. Thank you very much for coming to this interview, and it's been good to learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, and I sure hope someday to find you on YouTube and hear your music and see what music you create. I'm really excited to look forward to that.
I've learned a little bit from you today about being brave and putting my music online, so you never know. You never know. But see you later, Wessjester. I'm just going to do the outro now, so you have a fantastic day, all right?
Thank you so much, and I look forward to keep working with you.
Likewise. See you later.
Bye.
And that was our review or / interview with Wessjester. I'm used to doing reviews. I'm not so used to doing interviews, but thank you very much for watching this interview with Wessjester. Hopefully you've learned a bit more about him. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you go check out the social media links that I'll sprinkle down the bottom here. Please do check out Wessjester's tunes. He's a fantastic dude. I especially loved about the World Wildlife Foundation. I think that that's a gorgeous thing. And yeah, if you would like to be interviewed about your music, feel free to get in touch. We should have some links in the description about where you can find out more about our interview services and all like that. Because this is a service for both yourself. You can use the interview for your promo kit. You know, you can use it just to show your friends and family how awesome you are and what you do. But we'll catch you in the next interview. Or you can check out our reviews on our YouTube page. Stay cool. See you later. And actually, before I go, I'll continue the same outro as I do for my reviews. Please remember to support your local musicians at this point in time. There's need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. There we go. Same outro. We're all sorted. Spider hens out.